Well, hello there. In today's video, I'm going to be dropping some email marketing gems on you, which is going to help you with your open rates, your click-through rates, your engagement, and also the most important thing, which is earning money, encouraging clients or customers to interact with your emails and actually read them through, because that's the most important thing there. Now, I have sent out tens of millions of emails. I'm not kidding. Tens of millions of emails over the course of my marketing career. So I have consulted for brands where I've directly oversaw campaigns. I've sent emails out for places I've actually worked or contracted to. And also not forgetting my own business as well, where I get to directly control everything in it. So I know a little bit about this subject when it comes to emailing and getting people to buy. Looking on YouTube the last few months, and I can see lots of people offering email marketing advice, but usually, this is no offense by the way, usually they're like very, very new in business, or they've just set up the smma and they're talking about this is the #1 email you should be sending to people. And from my perspective, I'm kind of like, well, how do you know that, right? Because you've not been in the game long enough to rack up the experience long enough, right? So in this video today, you're probably going to hear some obvious things, common things which aren't actually common practice, and also some things which you don't know about, which has got direct studies and data backing why you should do exactly what I'm telling you to do, okay? So I'm going to get to the tactical stuff at the end of things you should put in your emails and things you should say, and I'm going to show you that. But first I want you to think about emailing a little bit differently than what you've been thinking. The #1 most important thing for sending emails to anyone, and you could scrap off all the other tips after this and have amazing success if you get this one right, is the offer is everything. What you are offering has to match with what the person's expecting. And I'm not talking about make an irresistible offer kind of like Alex Hormozy. I'm not talking about that sort of offer. What I'm talking about is what you are saying has to be relevant and of interest to them. So they have to have some sort of skin in the game of why they're going to open that email, or something which is incentivizing them. So here is an example of an email that's going to get a 100% open rate. If you get an email from your accountant and it says, "We've worked out your taxes, you need to pay this much." Right? Boring email, almost has a little bit of pain to it, right? A little bit of dread. Is that going to get a 100% open rate from you? Of course it is, right? If you try and access some sort of social media platform and find that you can't remember your login details and click forgotten password and you get a forgotten password email showing a temporary password which you can now enter in, are you going to open that email? Yes, 100%, because that right there is entirely relevant to you at that very moment. And that is a concept which people forget about in marketing, right? They're like, why are my email rates, open rates so low? Why is no one interacting? Let's forget everything about, the spam and things might go to spam and that. They're like, why is no one opening any of my emails? Well, it's probably because it isn't actually relevant to them. Or it was relevant to them and it's not relevant to them anymore. And now what you're doing is you're kind of having this uphill battle trying to get people interested in you, where it shouldn't really be like. So an ideal open rate for something which is a very, very good offer and entirely relevant for these people is between 40 to 70%. I'd probably say somewhere on that scale there, you will see a 40 to 70% open rate if something is entirely relevant to a person and you're hitting the nail on the head of what you're offering. Let me show you something. This right here is my Loom automation free trial. And what people do is if they're interested in a free trial for my Loom automation software, they would enter their name here, enter their last name, enter their email, click get free trial. And only the people who are very, very interested in getting that software would actually enter their email for that, right? The interest and relevancy is there. And now let's click over to the back end. Thousands of people have went through this, right? Thousands of people. And we can see 95% of emails were actually delivered. So this is the back end here. The form gets submitted, a tag gets added, a spreadsheet row gets created, and then the email gets sent. So I'm on the email section here. 95% of emails get delivered, but 60% of them get opened. So that's high, right? That means they have asked for something and they have got it. They have opened it because it's very, very relevant for them. And now what happens is, if I email these guys in relation to Loom automation in the future, I'm gonna get a very, very high email open rate, right? And an engagement rate, because it is directly relevant to what their interest is. This might sound super basic, but 99.9% of people I come across do not do this, right? They're trying to sell to people who do not want to buy what they want to buy. But what they should really do is find a group of people who have the interest, draw them towards them, and then email them from there. It's completely the opposite of what people actually do. And that is how you get good open rates for your emails. You can come up with all these different sorts of tricks of, using only small lowercase letters when you are typing out your email heading and putting a spelling mistake in there so it looks like it's a real person. But really, the best way to get them to open it is for them to have some sort of interest in it, okay? Right. That's number one. Number two, can you guess what the reading age rate of the general population is in Western countries? Let me tell you, you'll be surprised. The average reading rate in the UK population, so I'm going to extrapolate this over to the US as well, or Canada, is actually 9 years old, right? So what does this mean? This means that when people are in primary school, or I think you guys in the US call it elementary school, when you guys are in that school, it's very unlikely that after you've left that school and maybe started high school, you are going to pick up another book from there. The average member of the population does not do that. They don't read anymore. They don't pick up any more books. Instead, they keep that age 9 reading age until they die, right? So if age 9 is the average, that means 50% of people are below that and 50% of people are above it. So if you're going to type in anything other than easily understandable basic words, you are going to instantly alienate half of the population, and they aren't going to bother to read your emails. If you get a complex heading on an email subject line and you've decided to look clever, I know I used to do this, right? You decided to look clever. People are going to look at that email and they're going to be like, I don't quite know what that means, so I'm having to use lots of energy, lots of glucose from my brain to actually interpret what this means. And they're just not going to do it. They're not going to open it. And even if you do pass that barrier of getting them to click through the subject line, they're not going to read the email if it's got like big lengthy words in it. Write it as if you are talking to a 9-year-old or even younger. There is an amazing app which you can use to do this, right? One's called Hemingway, which is what I'm going to show you right now. It's free and online. I've used a contracted one called Amplify, which is also very, very good, which gives you like before and after reading scores. This is Hemingway here. So Hemingway is a fantastic free app where you can type some words in here or copy and paste an email over here, and it'll tell you what it thinks the reading age is. So we can see the reading age of this bit of text here, which is just basically the description of Hemingway, is actually grade 6, which works out to 11 to 12 years old, which is fractionally too high. The great thing about Hemingway is he basically tells you where the tough sentences are and like the hard sentences. So we could say that all this is very easy to read here. It's got the occasional word which might be a bit complex, but then we've got this yellow lined sentence here, this yellow highlighted sentence, which is hard to read. And then we've got this one red sentence, which is very hard to read. And now what we would do is we would go through this and try and reword it. So it says, if you see a red highlight, your sentence is so dense and complicated that your readers will get lost trying to follow its meandering. Splitting logic, try editing this sentence to remove the red. And it's very, very easy to do. So if you see red highlight, your sentence is so dense, so wordy, so we could just say wordy, that your readers may get confused. All right, we've already got it to yellow. All right, try editing the sentence to remove the red. Boom. You see that? I just made some shorter sentences and slightly adjusted the words. People forget what copywriting is. Copywriting and content writing is explaining to a person on a very simple level in a persuasive manner. How are you going to be persuasive if you're using lots and lots of big words? So this is exactly why Hemingway is brilliant. If you put all of your emails through it, you will find that they are all much, much easier to read. For instance, I've got this down to grade 5 now, which is ages 10 to 11. If I was to take this sentence out here, it might even reduce it to grade 4. Here's an email I've just copied from an email I actually send out to people. So let's just delete that heading. We could, hey, contact first name, just to let you know that we have now got your email. The next batch of Loom automation trials will be sent out in the next few days. So be sure to check your inbox or spam box then to get your details. Talk soon, Rob. Right. Grade 3. Very, very, very basic. Very easy to understand. Hello again. Tip number 4. If you have hey, contact first name, it instantly makes your email more engaging. There's a good book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and in that book it talks about the importance of learning a person's name when you first meet them and then using that name repeatedly, because people generally like to hear their own name. So make sure where you possibly can, always use the variable text areas where it allows you to pull the person's first name from, because that instantly engages them just a little bit more. Bonus tip, if you have the person's first name, you may as well use it in the subject line as well, because that also increases open rates. It increases them between 3 to 5%. I've tested this out again across millions and millions and millions of emails. So in this scenario, I would put info about your Loom automation inside, right? In this email subject line, you'll have probably noticed it's actually nice and short, so it fits all on one line when it comes to a person checking their email on their phone. So on this, case, it will be Rob, my name, info about your Loom automation inside. I've said the name, it's also very, very relevant for them. This is how you get high open rates, guys. It's so simple. You need to stop listening to all these YouTubers who are telling you, oh, you need to do these little manipulative things to get people to open it. No, you've got to start listening to people with experience who've been there and done that. And the final tip, getting your customers to actually buy from you and opt into the pages you need them to check out the products you need them to, or to maybe upsell or cross-sell them to somewhere else. Have a single call to action. Check this out. Now, this email we're looking at here is from another email follow-up sequence for the free trial after a person has signed up with a free trial for the Loom automation. The subject line that comes after in a follow-up email is 4 times more appointments with Loom automation. The statistics are 78% opened, right? 11% clicked. Let's look at this typical average that you would see in any given industry. So according to MailChimp, the average email click-through rate across industries is 2.91%, 4% for government, almost 5% for media and publishing, and home and garden. That means I am almost at 3 times the rate of media and publishing. And the reason why, guys, is because, as you will see in a minute, I've only got a single call to action for it. Here is the email here, right? So once quadruple your booking meetings, you don't really have to read this, but what you can see is I'm encouraging people to take a certain action. See if it works for your business and take it for a test drive by clicking the button below and logging in. Click here to access your Loom automation. And 11% of people have went through that, and 80% of people, almost 80%, have actually opened this email. These are very, very simple yet effective tips which you can use in any type of email operation going on. So what did we say there? First of all, we want to make sure the offer's right and what you're actually emailing people is relevant to them, right? That's number one. That's the most important thing. Secondly, it needs to be readable by a person who's 9 years old, essentially. Think when you're typing the email, would a 9-year-old be able to make sense of this? If you're not sure, put it through Hemingway. Thirdly, change you don't have to do all these, by the way, guys. You don't have to do every single one of these, but if you do a few of these, you're going to see a massive uplift, right? So thirdly, make sure that you start the email with hi first name. And bonus point, you can also put it in the subject line there, which increases it by 3 to 5%. I actually didn't do it on that most recent email that I showed you there, but looks like I didn't really need to. It was still almost 80% open rate. And then to get people to actually take action and to actually click something, you have to use only one call to action. If I was to not use one call to action on that email, it would probably drop the click-through rate of that email by about 10 times, right? So maybe only 1% of people would have actually clicked through to the area I was trying to show them on that email there, rather than actually 11%. Most people are spending far too long trying to learn copywriting and trying to, make the words as poetic as possible. I've worked for places where as long as you know a little bit, you are good to go, but the email best practices are actually what you should be doing, okay? So remember those 5 tips. Go out there, change your emails, smash it, and get some new customers, right? I should start charging for some of these things, but if you implement them, I promise you'll get some good results. Let me know what you think of this video underneath. Take it easy. See you later.